Hi, and welcome to Chapel Hill Maker. I'm Rachel, and I love knitting and making here in beautiful Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I am so happy that you could join me today, and I have a few whips to talk about and a finished object. And I'm also excited to kind of continue the conversation that we had in my last episode about how to find your knitting people. So I'm excited to just get started, and I'm gonna jump right in. If you wanna find me on other platforms, I am Chapel Hill Maker on Instagram, on Ravelry, and here on YouTube. So the first thing that I wanna talk about is my finished Checkerplate Tee by Lily Kate France, and I am overjoyed with it. I love this so much. I'm gonna come up close so you can see these details. I knit this out of Wooldreamers Saona, which is a 50% wool, 50% cotton blend. And it's a woolen spun, so it's really light and airy. I mean, this top weighs nothing. And it is, has a lot of loft to it, which I don't think of when I think about a cotton yarn. I will say that there is a little bit of a prickle factor from the wool, but I have used this in the past, and I know that there's sort of a like a break-in period with this yarn. After a few wears or washes, it gets really, really soft, and I expect that it'll continue to soften as I wear it. Even as I was doing the tubular bind off for the hem here, I could feel that like that strand of yarn that I kept pulling through by the end felt like an old sweatshirt. So I'm excited for that. The prickle does sort of, I notice it, and I would imagine if it was really hot out, I wouldn't want to be putting this on, but it's not terrible. It's not distracting while I'm wearing it. What is distracting to me is how just super pretty this this pattern is. It is so well written and so clear. It is, I'm trying to think, it may be my first sort of all over lace pattern garment. And I really didn't have any issues except for the one that I talked about, which was totally user error, in that I did not read a little bit of information that was below the chart. And it said when I had, like, which rows I had to move markers in. And so I had a little bit of a kind of freak out moment there after I joined under the arms. But once I figured that out with some help, I was off to the races. And I love this so much. I am just thrilled with the outcome, and I can't recommend this pattern anymore, because I love the fit. It is, I would say I ended up with probably about an inch of positive ease, which is, I think, perfect for a summer shirt, and especially for my size. I just love the way it looks. It's not too tight, but it also isn't sort of overpowering for a summer shirt. And it's a raglan. As you can see, there are raglan increases here. And yeah, I've talked about it at length on some of my other episodes, so I won't go into too much detail, but I really, in case you can't tell, I love it so much. So yeah, so I have a few things to talk about today. I feel like once I finish a project, and tell me if you feel like this too, but once I finish a project, it's almost like this, I'm thinking of like the Hydra in the Hercules, Disney Hercules movie. You cut off its head and two more take its place. Because I cast this off last week, and I feel like all I've been doing now is casting on, even though I have other works in progress that I could completely be working on. So let's see, what do I have? The first one is, I guess I'll call it a half finished object. And if you've been here for a little while, you know that I am a huge Carolina Hurricanes fan. Our family goes to all of the home games, and at every single game I sit there and I knit. So they're always nice enough to let me bring, a sock project in. And so this is my Carolina Hurricanes sock, and my very first doodle, which is by Jamie Lomax of Pacific Knit Co. And I have hockey, and this is from her winter sports deck. And so I have hockey sticks on my first sock, and then I cast on the second one while we were watching the last game of last round, the second round, and we're waiting for round 3 to start. And I decided it would be sort of fun if I could put Go Canes on this sock. And so that's what I did, and it was super fun to work on. I had extra space on here, so I just put a little checkerboard pattern, and I think it's going to be just so cute. And I don't get really picky about my socks. I sort of, especially because I'm knitting them while I'm watching hockey, I expect that my tension's gonna vary and that things are gonna go. So I was kind of glad to get this cuff out of the way, but I'm not crazy enough to do color work while sitting in a NHL game. But yeah, so I was glad to get this out of the way, and I'm looking forward to having this pair of socks, and these are gonna be a gift for, we have just the sweetest lady who greets us at our section every game, and we've been seeing her for many years, and every time we come in she gives us a hug and asks how the kids are or where the kids are. And so I'm excited to give her a little Carolina Hurricanes themed gift, and depending on how far we go, maybe I finish those this season, and if not, they'll be ready for her for next. So that is and the sock pattern that I follow is basically a 60 stitch sock with a short row, a shadow wrap heel from Earth Tones Girl, and a wedge toe. So nothing, didn't reinvent any wheel there other than my Go Canes chart that I used Chartminder to create. And my next work in progress is one of those that I swear I blacked out, and then when I came to, I had the beginning of a new project because I had zero intention of making this. But then all of a sudden I couldn't not cast it on, and I love when a project sneaks up on me like that. So this is the Flock Vest by Andrea Mowry, and I'm sure you've seen it either on Instagram or Ravelry. It has been all over the place, and her testers made so many cool variations and color combinations, and it just got my wheels turning about digging into my stash and seeing what I could put together. And so Alicia Edmiston from Edmiston Creations, she tested the vest for Andrea Mowry, and hers is just, it's so cute, and she always styles all of her clothes in such a cool way. And so I saw that, and then Madi from Colorado Knitter also cast one on, and next thing I knew, I was just going, playing with colors and seeing what I had. So this is what I came up with. My main color is this Bunnypaca from Echoview Fiber Mill, which is no longer making yarn, which is really sad. They were a North Carolina based fiber mill, and this is 50% merino, 30% angora, and 20% alpaca. And both the angora and alpaca were from Western North Carolina here in the mountains, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so I don't know if you can see the halo on this yarn, but it is so soft and just, it's so soft. And so then when I was looking for my contrast colors, I came across these two from a hat that I knit. It was a test knit for Tanis Lavelli, or Lavelli, I think. Tanis Fiber Arts, the Ice Bloom hat, and these are Cashmere Merino Bloom from Purl Soho. And I think both of these colors may be discontinued now, but this is Conch Shell and this is Warm Honey. And they do have, I don't know if you can get a good look at the colors. My lighting's sort of weird today. They do have some similar colors on their website. And this yarn is really, really so soft. I mean, it's cashmere and merino. So here is how they look together. I mean, I feel like this gives me like 80s Benetton kind of vibes. And this is the back yoke. This is a DK, these are DK weight yarns, and it is a worsted weight pattern. I ended up getting gauged. She calls for 21 stitches on size 8 needles, and I was able to get 20 stitches on size 5 needles. And I knew if I went down anymore, I wouldn't, the fabric wouldn't be one that I liked. So I ended up sizing down bust size in order to get it to work for me. And I think it's gonna be just fine. So I've done the back now, and one side of the vest, I only have this side to go, and then the body. And I think it will work up really, really quickly if this is any indication, because this was just a couple of days of knitting and I love it. I don't know if you can see this halo in the light. Maybe you can. I probably would be farther along if I didn't just stop to pet it every few minutes. But this is the flock vest from Andrea Mowry, and it's so good. It's so good. I'm so excited to wear it, and I ordered just the cutest buttons from Brooklyn General Store. Then I can't wait for them to come. So I can't, and if you've watched for a while, you know I am just a fool for really cute buttons. So I can't wait. And they're gonna be here soon. So, okay. I am so excited to be test knitting for my friend Ashley Sauter, who is a knitter here in Chapel Hill and is releasing her very first pattern design. And it is called the Solstice Saddle Sweater. Say that 10 times fast. Solstice Saddle Sweater. It is a tongue twister, but it is a beautiful sweater. I'll put a picture of her wearing it up here. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this. Literally all I have done, my yarn arrived today, and all I have done so far is start my swatch, but even that has me so excited. So she used Explorer Knits Surrey held double, and I am going to use this yarn from Fiber Spates. It's Cumulus, and it's also a Surrey silk. It's the exact same fiber breakdown as the Explorer Knits, but I had a gift card to Wool & Company, so I was very excited to use it for this. This is the color Ruby Red, and it is, hopefully it's showing as pretty on the camera as it does in person. I saw it on their website and it looked like sort of a bright winey red, and when it came, it's a much deeper color than I saw online, and I love it even more. And so this is a all over texture cabled sweater, and she gives you the option of having it be sort of a mid arm short sleeve or a long sleeve, and she gives you the option of cropped or full length. And I think I'm going to do closer to cropped but longer sleeves, but that's a decision for another day. But here's my swatch, and it's let's see without the light through it. There we go. This is just in seed stitch, and I was honestly like not sure how the Surrey was going to take texture, and I'm so pleasantly surprised to see it up close. Let's see, can you see a little better there? It really is so pretty, and I haven't soaked this yet, and I think I'm on gauge for the seed stitch and just have to practice on the cables, but I can't wait to dig a little bit deeper into that. And then I'm also doing another secret test, which I won't be able to share on here for quite some time, but that's taken up a little bit of my time. So if you are playing along at home, I cast this off and now have 3 more projects on my needles, and I actually did swatch for one more. Let's see, it's right here. I talked a little while back about how I wanted to cast on The Finest Kind by Alicia Plummer for my husband. I had knit him the first sweater I ever made for him was, I think during COVID. And I figured after being married for, now we're almost 27 years, we're probably past the sweater curse. So, but the first sweater that I made for him ended up being way too big. And I think that was a combination of not really understanding how to fit a garment for sort of a traditional male body, for trying it on him midway and listening to his cues about size, and also not kind of holding it up against a sweater that he already loves the fit of. So I plan to remedy all of those in this next attempt. So I ripped that sweater out because it was made of Brooklyn tweed shelter, and it's too precious to have it sitting in a sweater that he's never gonna wear, because anytime he even goes to put it on just to be sweet, I tell him to go take it off because it's too big and it makes me sad. So I can't wait for him to have a sweater that is going to fit him. And now I would say I'm doing this as a knit along with Hannah G from Hannah G Knits, but considering she has either bound off or is very close to binding off, I don't know that I can call it that anymore. So sorry, Hannah. But here is my swatch. And this is in a double moss stitch compared to the single moss stitch of the Solstice saddle sweater. So I will be doing lots of seed stitch this summer. My hope is that this will be finished for him come the fall or winter, so I'm not in a huge rush for it, but I really would like to get him a new sweater. And so I think that is everything I have going on, which is a lot of whips. My knitting bags are overflowing. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, now I'm gonna get comfortable here. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was a follow-up on the conversation about finding your knitting people. It seemed like it was a conversation that really resonated with so many of you, whether I got comments on Instagram, messages on Ravelry, or comments that you guys shared below. Everybody has either a story on how they found their people or they're still looking for their people. And there were some good suggestions, and I remembered a few things that I forgot and have been processing this topic now for another week or so. I apologize, Mary Poppins has a toy, so you may hear some crinkles in the back, but at any rate, do you want to say hello? Can you come say hello? Come here. She seemed curious today. So this is Mary Poppins. She has not been on the podcast for a while. And okay, at any rate, she is a really good way for finding people, because people cannot help themselves. They just want to come up and see her, because she just, despite being a little shaggy right now, we always joke and say she looks like a little AI dog. Maybe it's just because we love her. But anyhow, so some of the things that came up in the comments are libraries. Totally forgot to mention that libraries are a great place to check their calendars, because they often have craft meetups weekly, monthly, bi-weekly. I know ours does, and if you live in an area that's a little more populated like we do, we have two counties right next to one another, so we have two options for libraries that we can attend. So definitely go check those out if you don't have a local yarn store, which that was one thing that struck me in the comments, is I know that there are not as many yarn stores as there once were, but some of you don't have yarn stores within an hour of where you live. And so definitely go check out your local library and see if they have meetups for knitting. And also senior centers. I know our senior center has a charity group, and they get together and knit baby hats for the hospital and blankets for the homeless. And I believe they also then sort of have secondary groups that meet around town, because I've bumped into a few of them as well. So those are two sort of physical locations to check out. The next thing that I did not really think about that some of you mentioned is Zoom. There are plenty of online knitting communities that I'm certain are welcoming for new knitters to join, and they don't then have to be in your immediate area. And some people are really happy just staying at home and hopping online. And while I haven't done a lot of Zooming since COVID, I have joined Piece for Piece Crafting's Zoom book club, and I've really enjoyed it. And I see people that I wouldn't otherwise have a way of interacting with. So check that out too. The next one is Ravelry. Someone said they made friends on Ravelry and found people in their area. And after reading that, I actually went and set up a Chapel Hill Maker Ravelry group. Sorry, he's being so noisy. So I set up a Chapel Hill Maker Ravelry group, and I would love for you to go and join it. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm gonna sort of be on there every single day, but nothing would bring me more joy than to know that you guys are interacting there. And I feel like maybe it's a safer space to share locations of where people might want to meet and try to meet up that way, as opposed to on YouTube in the comments. That gives me a little bit of angst to think, because the whole wide world is not as sweet and kind as our knitting community. So check out Ravelry, not just my group, but see if there are other local groups that have started pages on there. And to that end, Facebook as well, which I haven't really been on Facebook in a very long time, but some of you did mention that you found other people to knit with on Facebook. Okay, so let's see, I did libraries, so physical places. Also, try taking a class at your local knitting store. If they don't have social meetups, you may see a class that you want to take. And the nice thing about classes is that it takes some of the pressure off of having to make small talk, right? Because some of us aren't great at that. I know when I go into a new group, I either don't want to talk at all, or I'm nervous, and so I over chat. And so maybe by taking a class, you have a built-in conversation, and it's an easier way to engage with people. And I know when I've taught classes before, people definitely by the end are talking, and I usually try to build in a little bit of social time and introduction time. And I would love to think that they've gone on to make friends with people that were in our classes. And then the last one, as far as like a physical, that's not true, I have two more, is similar to the knitting classes. Check and see if you have a fiber event in your area, a fiber festival or something, within the, reasonable amount of distance, and volunteer at it. Because that's another way that you can show up at something, be engaged in the knitting community, and have a job. I know I do so much better if I have a task to do. I don't feel as nervous about talking to people if I have I understand the assignment. And so that's a good one too. And then the last one, which I didn't even know we had in North Carolina, and was invited last night by one of you guys, is our local knitting guild. And it's based out of Raleigh, which is about a half hour from me. And they happen to have been meeting in Chapel Hill last night. And so Christina Kennedy, who is Knit Habits on YouTube and Instagram, I think on Instagram, reached out on Instagram and invited me to meet her there. And I'm so happy that I did. And I felt nervous when I pulled into the parking lot that I didn't know anybody. We had only chatted, peripherally on Instagram. But as I have talked about here, as soon as you start talking about knitting, everybody just sort of relaxes, and it's fun to get to hear people's stories, and those always kind of come out naturally. And so it was really a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that by giving a few more suggestions and kind of normalizing the idea of being nervous to show up at these things, but showing up anyway, maybe more of us can connect. And one other thing that I wanted to comment was a few people said, I haven't found knitting people and I don't really need knitting people. And that's okay too. I don't want anyone to feel like that's what they have to be, that that's the ideal. Really, my goal is to give people who are looking for that kind of connection a way to expand their experience with knitting. And, a lot of times I'm really just happy to sit at home with television and knit, or YouTube. And a lot of the people that I follow on YouTube kind of feel like my knitting people also. So I'm happy to be your knitting person. But that brings me to the end of this conversation, but I would love to keep it going in the comments, on Ravelry, on Instagram. If I'm missing any other suggestions, feel free to add to the list. And yeah, so if you're looking for knitting people, maybe these are good ways to find them. Now I'm going to move on to news cycle avoidance. I read a book this past week that is really outside of my typical listening. It's usually I go for cozy mysteries or, cozy romance or whatever it happens to be, sort of the easy reads. And this one was not as easy of a listen. It was called Dear Edward by Ann Napolitano. And it was about a boy, a 12-year-old boy, who was the sole survivor of a commercial plane crash. He was flying with his family from New Jersey to Los Angeles for a cross-country move, and the plane went down over Colorado. And so it sounds super depressing, and parts of it were, I'll be honest, but this book was so beautifully written, and the author jumps back and forth between what life was like before the crash and then what life was like after the crash for him, and sort of closes in on the time gap between before the crash and after the crash, and what happened leading up to the crash. She does not go into any gratuitous detail about the plane crash, which I was a little nervous about because I'll be honest, I'm a nervous flyer. And so I was kind of worried that this was a bad idea to listen to this book. But in the end, it is so much about this kid figuring out where he belongs in the world as he's growing up, and figuring out what his purpose is and who he is without his family of origin, and what he can do to honor the people that were lost. And it, like it said on the book jacket or cover, that it is uplifting. And there were definitely moments in the book where I was like, how is this going to end up being uplifting? But I have to say, it came away feeling uplifted and feeling hopeful, and it was a really great story. So if you are looking for something a little bit different, I recommend that without any reservations. And I finished a book today, actually. Another one that's outside of my comfort zone, but I really strongly recommend it, is a biography by Eddie Jaku. And when he wrote this book, he has since passed, but when he wrote this book, he was a 100-year-old Holocaust survivor. And he tells his story in this book. It's short, and it is called The Happiest Man on Earth, which, to think about somebody who survived the atrocities of the Holocaust to be able to, at any point in their life, talk about being the happiest man on earth is pretty amazing. But there were so many, and it was a hard listen. I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. Anything about hearing about human suffering is painful. And so it is definitely a hard listen, but a worthwhile one, because he came away with an outlook on life that is so unique to somebody who went through extreme suffering and extreme adversity. And you really, I came away awestruck by his resiliency, his human spirit, his ability to rise above and not carry hate around with him for the remainder of his life, and to build a really beautiful life after something as hard as he endured. So clearly I was, with both of these books, I think I've been looking for some of that, sort of light at the end of the tunnel kind of stories, and they both delivered on that. So that was The Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku. And so that's my active news cycle avoidance section. And then the last one is a quick podcast recommendation. You may have seen her already. Her podcast is called Alex Talks and Knits. And she is a Canadian maker, and a lot of her videos recently have centered around pattern roundups, and she does really creative collections. Summer tank tops, I think should have written this down, but summer tank tops that you maybe haven't seen, or 90s inspired fashion, or all different roundups of patterns, which takes a lot of time and work to assemble. And she does a great job, and I love her commentary on it. So definitely go check out Alex Talks and Knits. I think you'll find things that you really like there. And I think that brings me to the end of this video. So this was my third time recording it. So hopefully it didn't feel like I was rushing through, but life just kept lifing this week. And I'm glad I had the time to sit down and visit with you. And Mary Poppins does too. And yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you for commenting and liking and subscribing and following and engaging and inspiring and all of the wonderful ings. And I'm so happy you could join me today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.